In this Patreon-requested album review, I was asked after covering Risk on Regretting the Past to, quote, wash the taste out of my mouth by reviewing a good Megadeth album. Thank God for that, because I think everyone who has ever heard Megadeth knows that they have great material, and at the very least, know that there is better thrash from the group than anything Risk has to offer. Peace Sells But Who's Buying, Megadeth's second studio album, was released on September 19th, 1986. Over the years, the album has gone platinum in both the United States and Canada. For many people, this is the zenith of Megadeth albums. Despite all the personal issues going on with the band around the album's release, including massive drug use and the departure of band members, Peace Sells still stands the test of time. One of the main reasons that this album stands out is because this release was the first real glimpse at Mustaine and Company's view on American society. While things have obviously changed since the 1980s, Mustaine still stands very strongly on his political and cultural stances to an extreme. This album was really where that started to shine out and be put to the sound of iconic guitar work. I don't need to go into much more praise for the album, as it's been listed on many best of lists and now clickbait articles as one of the best thrash metal albums ever, or one of the metal albums you need to hear before you die. One thing I can definitely agree with, though, is that Peace Sells But Who's Buying is Megadeth at their musical best. Now, 30 years after Megadeth's inception, the band are still heralded for a select few albums, and it's their sophomore release that most metal fans point to. While Metallica was in its stride that year with Master of Puppets, Megadeth had then started proving they were no slouch and made a name for themselves. The title track is a great example of what Megadeth does best. Mustaine gives off his angst-filled lyrics with guitar chords and solos laid throughout at a tempo change into what feels like an entirely different song at a little over halfway through the track time. While people remember many of the lines bitterly replied by Mustaine in his first half, it's everything in the second half that makes this song worth it, from the singing of Peace Sells to their amazing guitar work. It's funny to think about how the song is one that really put the album on the map, because looking back, it isn't really the strongest in lyrical content. It isn't to the full right-wing Bill O'Reilly level of American political discourse that Mr. Mustaine would later start lecturing on, but I didn't know you had any feelings isn't exactly Shakespeare. In my opinion, though, these lyrics add to the charm of the album. It feels more human and applicable to the average person, and unaffected by the lyrics are some amazing instances of string bending and absolute shredding on the guitar by Mustaine and Chris Poland, as well as some masterful bass playing by Dave Ellefson, who never gets enough credit with what he's capable of doing with the low tones. It's really easy to understand the praise for Megadeth and why the band has had continued support over the decades after hearing just how talented the band is in a track like Good Morning Black Friday. It's hard not to chant along with Black Friday, and hearing those blistering guitars make you wish you had taken up an instrument years ago just to be half as talented as the people you just heard. And from the beginning to the end of this album, you have no doubt that Megadeth are a force to be reckoned with as both one of the big four and a household name. Just listening to the opening notes of Wake Up Dead set the mood and pace of this album, and it instantly gives the very guttural energy, while listening as your hands instantly go into air guitar mode. Wake Up Dead is another great example of Megadeth's ability to change their own speed and momentum in the same song but still keep the energy going. While many bands write a bridge in their song to quickly arrive at a chorus, Megadeth write it to take a total detour and blast for minutes on end for the sole reason of metal. There are so many high points in this album for guitar work and creativity that many people really need to revisit. It's interesting to find out that upon release, Peace Sells But Who's Buying had many mixed reviews, but later was re-reviewed by many music outlets, almost as if the album wasn't as appreciated at its time and as probably should have been, especially during the real surge of thrash. While Master of Puppets reigned supreme in 1986, Peace Sells But Who's Buying more than holds its own weight. It's not a masterpiece, and even if I myself prefer Rust in Peace as my favorite Megadeth album, I totally understand why many people hold Megadeth's second album as the band's measuring stick. Overall, Peace Sells But Who's Buying is a guitar lover's dream and still stands as one of the greatest albums to annoy your snooty neighbors with. In a world filled with Amir and Attila, we need more albums like this with actual passion, feeling, and talent. Hey guys, thank you for watching. This video was a reward for a patron who donated to my Patreon account, and you can also help me out greatly by checking out my Patreon page and donating as little as $1 or $2 a month. Please subscribe so you can see my upcoming videos for new album reviews, and you can follow Rocked on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.